we don't realize we're on the cusp of canceling or quitting until we're drowning. And there is a point where we as Christians have to acknowledge, I'm not okay. This was really painful. This has actually broken my heart, possibly crushed my spirit. And how do I be able to give Jesus my yes when I am a literal broken mess?
Welcome to the Crucible Project Podcast. The Crucible Project is a nonprofit organization committed to creating a world of men and women who live with integrity, grace, and courage, helping them to fulfill their God-given purpose. This podcast will discuss important and sometimes difficult topics while delivering practical life applications with men and women who are currently practicing this work. We are igniting Christ-like change in men and women through experiences of radical honesty and grace.
All right, welcome back to the Crucible Project Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Jess Donovan, and today I'm so excited. I have Natalie Runion on with me. She is a women's pastor out in Colorado. She's a speaker, and man, I just think there's going to be so much gold from this. So I'm excited for you to hear it. Natalie, how are you doing today?
I am doing so well, Jess. Thanks for having me on here today.
Oh my goodness. Of course. Now I heard your daughter is home for fall break, is it? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, it's like if anything madness can happen, there's dogs barking, there's children home. It's just the day in the life of being a mom in ministry, really. So
yeah. I mean, what a good glimpse into real life though, right?
Yes.
I mean, often we can have our platforms, we can have our things that we do, but man, keep it real, like full-time.
Our kids keep us humble, man.
It's so true. It's so true. Like a blessing and a curse all in one, right?
Yeah.
Oh man. So Natalie, I'd love to share your story with us. Where did you come from? How did you get to what you're doing now?
Yeah, I'm a pastor's kid from the Midwest, so nothing glamorous. Everything was very simple growing up. My dad was a pastor. My mom helped run children's ministry. My sister, who is younger than myself, we lived in the church parsonage as a family. It was a very simple childhood, public school, neighborhoods to play in. It was a good upbringing, and got into high school and started to really begin to, I think, just see behind the curtain of ministry, experience some of our own church hurt as a family. And I was supposed to go to a Christian school, a Christian college, and ended up going to Miami of Ohio, which is not a Christian school, and majored in science. I was an exercise physiology major, mostly because I just kind of in my mind went from 100% thinking I was going to be in full-time ministry to going through a painful season and then just saying, no, I don't want anything to do with it. If this is the church, I don't want to be part of it. And so went to this college where I was in, classes with atheists and people who had never heard of Jesus, and really had to fight for my faith for the first time in my life. It wasn't just handed to me. And it was there that I got involved with Campus Crusade for Christ and started to really have a heart for people, not just church, not just religion, but really wanted to see people set free, really did want people to know this hope that I had, even if I was questioning it sometimes. That's kind of where my love for people started, was in college. And graduated from college. I was bivocational for 10 years. I taught physical education and health, as well as was a worship leader. And it was when I was 33, the Lord allowed me to go into full-time worship leadership as a vocation. And in 2017, my family moved from Ohio to Colorado Springs for me to join New Life Worship. And, it was here that my identity as a worship leader was challenged. Everything got challenged, and I was 40 years old. And it was the first time that I really had that conversation with the Lord of, I want to quit. I want to be done. There is nothing left for me to do. I have been in this my entire life. Let me do something different. And it was then that he gave me Raised to Stay, which is the ministry that I have been running simply online for the last 3 years. And it's a ministry for those of us who have a million reasons to walk away and one reason to stay, and that's Jesus. And in the last year, I signed a book deal. I am traveling now, and our community on Instagram is over 50,000 people that I call stayers, who are committed to not just staying in the church, because that's part of it, but primarily staying in relationship with Jesus and on the vine.
Wow. Yeah, that's so good. And I mean, to have such a huge and important platform, but knowing the place that it came from is so powerful. And I could relate, right? So I work at a church as well. Man, have seen, as you said, it's kind of like looking behind the curtain to what actually goes on. And sometimes that feels a little bit ugly and a lot of it easy to run away from if we're not committed to it. And so, what was it like, as you grew up in your own family with your dad as a pastor? I'm sure that had to have a whole different experience to it than even, some of your recent church hurt that you brought up. So what was it like to, be a pastor's kids? Pastor's kids, I have such a heart for them. Watching my own pastor's kids, walking with them, I I see the beauty and the pain of it. So what was it like for you to be in that and then even come away to a different setting?
It's interesting because I say it's both beautiful and brutal because you have this entire church that becomes family.
Yeah.
So there's something so incredible about that, to know you're never alone. I mean, like I said, we lived next door to the church in my most formative years. And so people were always coming and going, and there was always community surrounding us. And so because of that, when you love hard, you love hard. And then when you hurt hard, you hurt hard. And so those wounds aren't just little skinned knees. When you experience church hurt from people who are supposed to protect you, there is a sense of betrayal that is deeper than if a friend at school says something bad about you or a coworker betrays you. There is something that feels like almost a holy indignation of that's not how we're supposed to do this. And I think as a kid, our brains aren't even formed enough to really know what we're feeling. And then we watch our parents feel it, and we watch our siblings feel it. And then we see people we love feel it in the church. And I think it's just a lot of carrying heavy things that our little shoulders aren't meant to carry. And for most of us, I would say our parents try to do a really good job of protecting us from the bulk of it. But we still can hear, and we can still discern, and we can still see that things aren't perfect. And I do think there is a paradigm shift for pastors' kids that's different than just normal church kids, because there's so many layers to that, church onion that we're seeing peeled back. And then our own layers as children, as kids, as, minorities of the church, being the only pastor's kids. It does feel lonely sometimes. So I think it's a huge emotional roller coaster, truth, if I'm being honest.
Totally. Yeah, that's huge. And as you said, it is this big onion, and it comes with cost. Like you said, like there can be the kid at school, but there's not a relationship there. And so you don't feel the cost of it. But man, when it comes to those people, as you said, who are supposed to be family, there is so much hurt because there is so much love. And I think you said that so well. Like there is so much hurt because there is so much love. I have noticed, especially in this generation in church, how big of a deal cancel culture is. If it's not working, we get rid of it. If it's not easy, we're gotta go. And I just have to laugh. Like as I was preparing for this today, I was thinking of a few years ago when the song Oceans was like the biggest deal ever. It would be everyone's tagline on all of their posts. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you call me. And then they'd cut it, right? Like they're like, okay, and that's it. Missing the part of take me deeper than my feet could ever wander. Like the going is great. Like, take me wherever you want me, Lord. I don't know if you know much about Enneagram stuff, but I'm an Enneagram 7. And so if there is pain associated, I will go serve the Lord overseas. I will do whatever, and I'll slap the name of Jesus on it because I don't like to go deep. Don't take me deeper than my feet could ever wander. But it's in that place that our faith is made stronger, right? Because you think about, man, the church hurt that was there, the hard places, what made you choose to stay in the hard places and to dig deeper there?
Well, as an Enneagram 7 myself, and sometimes a 3, I kind of bounce back and forth.
Okay.
I also hate pain to the point where, like, when I would go on mission trips and they would tell me I needed 12 shots before I would go, I was like, Jesus, really? Like, are you really calling me to do this? So I too don't enjoy pain. And I always say this because I think it's true. And I think Christians need to be aware of it. We're really good at gaslighting ourselves into thinking that we're not as in pain as we really are. So what happens is we say, Lord, take me deeper, but we're not doing this healing work to help unload and offload some of the things that we've just been holding on to because we think we're supposed to.
Yeah.
So we don't realize we're on the cusp of canceling or quitting until we're drowning. And there is a point where we as Christians have to acknowledge, I'm not okay. This was really painful. This has actually broken my heart, possibly crushed my spirit. And how do I be able to give Jesus my yes when I am a literal broken mess? Yeah. And that's why I am such a huge champion of counseling and spiritual direction and even medication, because there does come a point where we in our physical bodies can no longer carry the weight of the thing that's making us want to cancel or quit, knowing that God is not finished with us yet, but we can't even get out of bed, much less give him our yes to the nations. So for me, when I got to that point, I had to acknowledge 3 years ago, man, if I want to quit and I love Jesus and I love the church and I am committed, if I want to quit, I can't imagine all the other people in this world who have been raised in the church who are saying the same things I'm saying. And that's what started waking me up every morning, was realizing that Jesus was convicting me so strongly that the cross that he hung on, was not the beginning of his death. It was the start of a resurrection. Wow. And if we can see our trial and our pain as not the thing that's going to kill us, but the thing that's going to give us life and help give other people life through Jesus, we'll start waking up with new purpose. And that's what happened. It was like, people are really being hard on me right now. This is not a great season for me, but I can't imagine not getting up every day and pointing people back to Jesus. Maybe not to the church, maybe not to people right now, but to the one who got out of the grave. And that has honestly been what has woken me up every day for the last 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, what a huge testimony. And what a huge call as well. I think that especially, as I'm someone in Christian ministry, I lived so much of my Christian ministry life trying to be shinier and perform better. And it was almost like trying to put on this healing balm for me of like, okay, I see this painful stuff. I see the hurt. And so instead of actually approaching it, I'm just going to make my ministry bigger and better and look better and do the things so that others see me. But man, I can't tell you how many people since have been like, I didn't need that. Like, I didn't need that ministry. I didn't need the shinier ministry, whether it was for me or someone else. They were like, I needed the real. I needed for someone else to say, yeah, I'm broken. And that's the whole reason I need Jesus. Like, the joy is good. The excitement is good. The growing is good. But as you said, like oftentimes we get to that sinking point where we need to go, oh, shoot, like I need something more. And I think especially even just thinking about Gen Z, I work with youth and they are longing for something real. They're longing for something that isn't just, we do this on Sundays because we have to. We do this when we show up because we have to. I'm doing this because my mom said so. When it becomes so routine and so religion-based as opposed to like, hey, you're broken? Yeah, me too. Okay, let's talk about this Jesus who did take the cross so we could have freedom from that and walk in that freedom. I think there's such a shift that can happen there. What would you say to any teen, to any girl, maybe even any young woman? Because I see it all over college girls too. Like, what would you say to those girls, to those young women who are like, I'm out, like I'm good with this Christianity thing?
I would say that it is good to detangle, not deconstruct, but detangle from harmful religious systems that pointed you to a Jesus who was anything but loving, kind, gracious, slow to anger, quick in love. That it's okay to take seasons to really dig deep into who Jesus is according to his scripture, not according to maybe the religious institution that you were raised in. I think detangling and even healthy deconstruction can be good for those who have been under harmful system. However, it is vital that we have mentors and disciplers around us who can help us put the pieces back together. Because Gen Z is looking for real and authentic. They can sniff out the inauthentic in a heartbeat. That is why we, as the millennials and Generation X and baby boomers, have got to be better at mentorship and discipleship so that we can help Gen Z put back the pieces to their faith in a healthy lens, which means we have to be healthy.
Yeah.
So to that younger generation, I would say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I would say, look for authentic expressions of who Jesus is, whether it's a campus ministry, it's a missions opportunity, it's serving in your dorm, it's serving in your community. Jesus can be found in so many spaces. His Holy Spirit goes with us wherever we are. So even if you have to take a moment to leave a church or leave a building, my encouragement is to stay connected to the vine, stay connected to Jesus, worship in your room, journal, spend time with the Lord in your own way, and then begin to slowly trust that there is a church body, there is a church family who can love you and will love you. And we can only be hurt because we love.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't want to see us do, is stop loving because we're afraid of getting hurt.
Yeah.
I'd rather get to heaven and be told that I loved too much, and that's why I carry some scars, than to be told that I didn't love enough and that's why I was lonely.
Man, all of that, I echo that so much. You're so right. Like, we can run so far from being hurt that we don't ever give ourselves the opportunity to know what love is. I feel like that's actually my current season. For me, it has looked like being in the thick of some crazy church stuff, but also in that knowing God's heart so much better, as I've had to seek out different mentors than maybe the ones that I'd normally seek out and go, okay, I see authenticity there. And so I want to follow that authenticity. Because as you said, that realness is easy to see. Like, I think we think we're putting on a really good show. Like, people can tell. And, just as much as others can tell it in me, I can tell it in others. That mentorship, like whether you're 18 and needing a mentor or 30 and needing a mentor, gosh, get a mentor. Like, get people who have lived it out before you and can also say, hey, yeah, I experienced some trust issues. It was really hard right there. But I also had people before me that, yeah, they kept going and I could see the freedom that they experienced.
There's this thing that kind of breaks my heart that's happening in the Raised to Stay community, where, because I talk pretty balanced. I talk to the people who are just being big babies and refuse to heal and go back to the church. And I'll be honest, I don't have a lot of tolerance for people who say they've been abused when really they've just been offended,
Ooh,
so I talk to that group pretty heavy. But I also talk to Christians pretty heavy, because a sad trend I'm seeing is that when I sympathize with people who have truly been broken and hurt and abused by ridiculous religious things that we did growing up, the Christians who are in their like 30s, 40s, 50s and over, they come into the comment section, and rather than really listening to what hurt people, they're just so quick to defend the procedures and policies and programs that didn't hurt them.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important, if we're going to mentor Gen Z, if we're going to sit in people's pain, that we actually sit in it and not just try to gloss it over with, but it wasn't that bad, or I was okay. Like, I really think as Christians, we have to be better at wrestling with people who didn't have our experiences. And while I did go through hurt, I certainly was not sexually abused. I certainly was not traumatized. And so I do think that while I love to tell fun stories of church, I have to remember that that's not everyone's experiences. And I need to be able to sit with people and listen, truly listen and hear them, and not try to diminish their pain because I don't want them to feel pain.
Yeah, no, that's a real piece to it. And there's so many different experiences, like you said. So sure, we all carry hurt, but everyone's hurt experience is different. That's the huge part of telling stories and making room for stories and making room for active listening too. I think so often, I'll speak for myself, I listen with an agenda. Like I can so often listen and be like, I'm just listening to you now because it's my job or because I have to. And so I know the 5 answers that I can say with all the like ahs and wows. And like I can play off my active listening, but they aren't actually being seen and I'm not actually being challenged in that. Even as we're listening to go, wait, am I actually tuning into this person's story, their experience? Am I seeing them for what is? And I love that earlier in this podcast, you had said that, like we can so often pick all these reasons to go, right? But your one reason to stay is Jesus. Taking that and going, okay, what is it about Jesus that makes me want to stay? Well, if I look at Jesus, if I look at his character and who he was Emmanuel. He was God with us. If we think about Jesus's interactions with people, well, the Pharisees and the religious leaders were like, yeah. I got my agenda. You're going to do what you're going to do, but I'm just going to say it's not the way I do it and then cast you off to the side. Jesus would go, tell me your experience. Like, tell me your story. Being Emmanuel, being God with us, he sat with them in it. To be able to sit with people and go, hey, I see you. I want to hear you. I want to listen to you is such a huge deal. And so I'm curious in your life now, as you're doing full-time ministry and have even just such a huge Instagram following, and there's so much going on for you. How do you ground yourself currently? And what does it look like for you to separate out your ministry to your own personal wrestling with God and your own relationship there?
It's funny because my boss at my church will tell me that the best way to stay humble is to stay rooted in a local church, because nobody sees me as Natalie, who has this huge following. They see me as Natalie, who rocks their babies on Sunday morning, and Natalie, whose kids are running through the church, on Wednesday night. And I do believe that staying rooted in the local church reminds me of my Judea, Samaria, and to the ends of the world, along with my family. That's what God's given me right here. And people aren't impressed by people. They shouldn't be anyway. We are constantly humbled by our own children, our spouses, our church family. They keep us grounded. Too, I think I have to just acknowledge that everything God chooses to breathe life on, that's his choice, not mine. And we give him our yes, and we don't know what he's going to do with that yes. We don't know if he's going to give us a following, if he's going to give us a platform. We don't know if our yes is just rocking our child at night while we're watching infomercials, or while we're sitting at a volleyball game, cheering our children on, or we're with our spouse on a date night. I think it's just showing up every day with this humility that God can do what he wants in us and through us at any time. And we are all one bad decision away from falling and needing that grace that so many of our people that we serve need. I every day ask the Lord just to humble me in his sight and his eyes, and to remind me why I'm doing this. And it's to make his name known, not mine. And it is hard balancing family ministry, church ministry, raised to stay ministry. I'm not going to lie. I wake up every day and sometimes think, you've picked the wrong girl. This is not going to go well. But this raised to stay community is so fun because they repost, they reshare different languages, different styles. They paint, they create with the words. And the Lord constantly reminds me we're never doing this alone. We are always in his sight and we always have each other. And that's what has really spurred me on, I think, every day when it feels heavy.
Totally. What a real perspective. No matter what your influence is, you are an influencer. And so as an influencer, it can feel like such a huge mission, like that we have so much to carry. But to remember, it's all God's anyways. No matter what I do, no matter who I influence, if I'm not doing it for God, why am I doing it? Letting it be that heart check of like, who am I actually showing up and doing this for today? It's even funny for me in this ministry as I talk about soul work, as I talk about real talk. I can sniff when my performer comes online, and I have to sit there and go, okay, Jess, hold on a second. We've gone over this. Is this for you to get more attention, or is this to bring more attention to who Jesus is? Even looking back, I know for myself, like I can say church hurt, Christian ministry hurt has been because I've elevated those people over Jesus. So yes, they're supposed to be a reflection of Jesus, but they are not supposed to be Jesus. If I'm giving them that power and that position in my heart, I'm going to be let down. And same thing for me. Like if I'm expecting myself to be in that position of importance, is it actually about Jesus or is it about Jess? And that's a pretty, messy line to cross. I think you're right that, yeah, like we're one bad decision away from falling, but it's also that piece of remembrance of, okay, no matter what, like if I mess up, if I do something that, whatever hurts or hinders, I need Jesus. I think it's that daily reminder of like, shoot, this ministry is nothing without Jesus. My life is nothing without Jesus. Amen for the people who keep us humble too. So I think also just having some grace there. And so what's been some of the goals for you of, deciding to stay in hard places? Like what goal has come out of that for you?
I think the biggest one has been the people God has drawn into this space alongside of me. I like to call us the remnant, to put a holy look at it. I see this beautiful stained glass window that has had a rock thrown through it. And we're all kind of like laying on the floor in this beautiful cathedral. And just like the Lord did, just like Jesus did in the feeding of the 5,000, he's having us gather the pieces and make something beautiful and usable from the brokenness. That has been what has been the most beautiful part for me, is to see he's actually making beauty out of our ashes. And I didn't believe it until I saw it with my own eyes. I ran this ministry with about 500 of us for 2 years, and then 1,200 of us for 3 years. And then this August, out of nowhere, there's 20,000, and then September, 30,000. And I'm just seeing now, like at 50,000, like all of these broken pieces coming together and saying, look, we don't know what the picture is going to look like, but we can't wait to see what our part is in it. Yeah. That to me is the hope, because, people travel hundreds of thousands of miles to go sit in cathedrals and stare at stained glass windows. And I think that's what the church is going to look like. People are going to see this broken picture of us, and there's going to be so much beauty as Jesus shines through us, that the people who at one time said, I want nothing to do with it, will travel far and wide to see the glory of God shining through his people. And that's us. Yeah. And that's why we have to keep going, because we have to let him do what he said he was going to do and finish what he started.
There's so much gold in that. There's the ease of running, of going somewhere else, of doing something else, but you miss out on the fruit of being with, of watching it go through the hard season to come to some fruit. I said to someone recently, they were like, how's the season for you? I was like, it feels like I am in this place of mucky joy. I'm knee deep in muck, but at the same time, like there's so much joy in it because I'm seeing this fruit in the muck. And I know that that fruit is from staying. And I know that that fruit is from being present in the mud, in wrestling in it. Wow, what a testimony. We so often shine on our own and don't really give room for the grace of God to come through. But it's through those broken pieces that his light shines, because it's through the pieces we couldn't have done on our own, other than a humble yes to say, yeah, Lord, we're going to stay in it and we want you to shine through us. We want your light to come through, and letting him work in that space is so important. And a daily reminder, like I can say this today and I'm sure I'll get to my office in 2 hours and be like, what the heck, but it's in those what the heck moments that we have to go, okay, what's my why? And can I stand in that? Like, what a testimony. Now, I hear that you have a book that's coming out. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so that's going to be in pre-sale. We're hoping like end of November, early December, and then it'll actually be physically in our hands July 4th. So my book in America, we're having a day on July 4th. I have big hopes for it. I don't know when this is going to be aired. I'm technically not allowed to say the title yet.
Yeah,
but you'll know it when it comes out because it's got a pretty obvious title.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited though. Lisa Bevere is writing my foreword, and it's just the people God has brought around this book. It's a story of my story, but it also takes us through the hurt, the hard, the hope, and the holy of what staying in longevity with Jesus looks like. We look at the Bible, different Bible stories and different apostles that just went through the things that some of us are going through, and they still, for the joy set before them, stuck with Jesus. My hope is that people will all buy two, one to keep and one to give away. I did the softback so everybody could afford two. I want to see this thing go everywhere because I want us all in it to finish it, right? I want us all in it to the very end. I will make sure to shout it from the rooftops. You'll be sick of me.
I'll share all of those shouts because I think it's such a worthy and important message. And for me, it feels like that anchor, that call to stay feels like that anchor of, as you said, it's the hurt, the hard, the hope, and the holy. And when we can put all of those pieces in together and go, here's my why, like, here's how I'm stepping up and I'm staying, it becomes a testimony to others. So let's share it. Let's get it out there. I think that's so good.
Thank you.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, Natalie, thank you so much for your time today. I think this is such an important message for people to hear, and a challenge for me too, a continual reminder to go, okay, I'm staying for a reason, and that reason is Jesus. Yeah, what a call. So thank you so much.
Oh, Jess, thank you. I've loved being with you guys today.
Awesome. All right. We'll see y'all next time.
For more information about our weekends, please go to thecrucibleproject.org. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Rate and review wherever you are listening and subscribe on your preferred podcast platform. Also, don't forget to check out myjourney2.com for your free 2-week trial. That's myjourneyto.com. Thank you for listening.